Welcome to The Bridge Coaching. My name is Emmy Peterson, and in these short videos, I help you pivot in your career or become aware of certain parts of your career that might really help you as you're moving forward. In today's question, we are going to cover how do I measure or check in with where I'm at in my career. Whether you are feeling good at the moment about your work or your work prospects or your career in general, or you might be feeling pretty crap and maybe 2020 and 2021 have been really difficult for you, which they have for a lot of people out there. Regardless where you're at, I would encourage you to join me today for what I call the 2-minute career check-in. This is a really simple exercise that you can go through without even writing anything down and sorting your career and how you feel about your career at the moment into 3 different buckets. So rather than putting any judgment on it or anything like this, because some of them have some negative elements to them, I want you to just really be honest with yourself. So this check-in, if you choose to do it today or just listen in and come back and do it later, is really just to work out where you're at right now, because your current starting point is your current starting point, and it's totally fine for that to be either of these 3. So let's dive in, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about next steps at the very end. The first place that you might be at is what I call the terrible bucket. This is a bucket that can teach us a lot about ourselves, but it's not a sustainable place to stay for very long. I have had roles like this, and almost everyone that I've ever worked with as a coach has had roles like this as well. But what is the terrible bucket? The terrible bucket is if you feel that your work is not right for you, or you feel like you're in the wrong place more than 80% of the time. So let's quantify that. If you work a 5-day-a-week role, you feel out of place or unhappy or not great 4 out of those 5 days. So think about that. Think about your last week, your month, or the week you're in right now. Is that true for you? Is more than 80% of the time, whether it's individual days or within the one day, are you happy or unhappy more? Are you unhappy more than 80% of the time, or about 80% of the time? Quite often, if you're in this bucket, you don't really see the purpose of what you do, or you don't see the meaning of it. Why am I even here? You might not feel the connection that your day-to-day tasks that you do contribute to anything much, and you might feel like you're doing a lot of repetition, or you're simply just not in flow. Important thing to remember as well, a terrible job can still pay well. So I've worked with many people who've got what we kind of call the golden handcuffs, which is the job pays really well and it services their whole lifestyle, but they're deeply unhappy more often than they're not. So it can have that kind of soul-crushing element to it, even if you're earning decent money. You probably think that you're hiding really well how you actually feel about this job, but people can tell. Like, people have different skill sets, and a lot of people are really good at picking up on the energy from a person or the energy in a room. Even in this digital age where we do a lot of video meetings, people can probably tell that you're not happy, and your manager or your leadership team might even be able to tell as well. And think about it this way. If you're in the terrible bucket, think about your job right now and imagine if that were a meal. You won't know whether it's a meal in a restaurant or a takeaway meal or something like that. If your job was a meal, would you ever order it again? No, you probably wouldn't. If it was a date or a first date with someone new, would you ever go on a date with this person again? You probably wouldn't. You'd probably run the other way. So the thing here is, it's not even about an expiration date. The situation you're in needs to change, and it probably needs to change for a range of reasons. Your mental health, your physical health, and also think about it. If you're in a place that you're not enjoying and other people can tell that you're not enjoying it, it's not helping them or the group around you either. So we've all been there, or many of us have been there, and it's a really great place to learn what doesn't work for you, and then you need to take action to get away from there, because it's really important to move to a space where you feel more fulfilled and more happy. The next part of it is the okay bucket. And sometimes I talk about a soft landing job, and I'm going to link that video separately down in the description box below this video. And the soft landing job is essentially a place where you can land and feel comfortable if you've been through something really difficult, or you've had some financial hardships, etc. The okay bucket, though, let's talk about this one a bit more. So 50% of the time, if you're in the okay bucket, you don't hate your job. It's okay most of the time. Sometimes you don't love it. Half of your week might be spent on things where you're like, meh, I can do them. It's fine. I can do those tasks, but it doesn't really fill my cup. I don't really feel like the energy is boosting me, And you're probably comfortable. This is a key word for anyone who's in this bucket. You're probably comfortable, but you may have that niggly little question in the back of your head going, why am I here? Like, I can see kind of why I'm here, but it doesn't feel like why am I not happy? And why you're not happy is probably because it's doing all right, but it's not where you're meant to be. And this, I often see this, by the way, for people who started in a role a long time ago and they've worked in the same role or company for quite a while. And they often come to me and they go, but it's okay on paper, like, why am I not happy? And it's because you've probably changed and your skills or your preferences have changed. And it's only natural that you want to grow and eventually transform out of that environment. So if that's you right now, you're actually in a really great space, even if it doesn't feel like it, because this is where you can make some changes. In terms of your energy and people around you, people can probably, they might not be able to tell as strongly as if you're in the red bucket, but people around you might be able to see that you're not really your energetic, happy self that you might have once been. And you're probably showing up, you know, with a big smile on your face, but you probably know, even if other people can't tell, that that smile doesn't go all the way to your heart. It's just, you know, showing up because that's what you need to do. I often say that the okay bucket is actually really dangerous, because if we sit in comfortable for too long, we're not going to be able to get to great, which I'll cover in a moment, which is the next bucket. But if you think about okay is kind of like dating someone that's perfectly nice and perfectly fine and there's nothing wrong with them. However, there's not that spark, there's not that flow, there's not that unique kindred spirit thing. And there are many times in our life, like I said, with the soft landing job, when we just need to pay the bills and get through a certain period. But it has an expiration date. Dating someone that is not the right person for you has an expiration date, and we all know it. And the same goes for jobs. So it's totally fine to be in this space, but this is also where you need to start laying your foundation to get you to the great role. If you're already in this role, I'm so happy for you. I have, like I said, I have been in all three of these buckets. And gone through different periods in my career, and you probably have as well. But if you've ever had a role like in the green bucket, you know exactly what I mean when I say you feel like you're in the right place or you like it more than 80% of the time. So again, more than 80% of your week or your day, you feel like you're in flow, things are great, you have a good mix of people challenging you, you have connection, you have growth opportunities so you can learn new things, and you have fun and enjoyment. This is really important. Work is not always about having fun, but if there's no enjoyment, you are going to get sick of it eventually. You can also see the impact. If you're in a great role, you can see the impact that you're making, not only in your company or in your team, but also perhaps in the wider community. You can see that your day-to-day tasks are making a difference for somebody else or a community group or something like that out there. I often say it's kind of like test driving the right car or going on a date with a person where you just flow. You know, if you've driven a bunch of cars and they just didn't fit you or they didn't feel right, and then you get into the right one and it just flows and it feels beautiful. Doesn't mean that you won't have to stop or service the car or it won't break down ever, but it means that you're flowing most of the time. Same thing with a great conversation. You might have been on a bunch of crappy dates and not really gelled with anyone and going, am I ever going to meet a person who's my person for now? And then you go on this date and, you know, conversation flows, you have so much in common. It's the same thing with your career. So a really simple thing for you to do is pause this video and think about the elements on the screen. Are you in the terrible one? If you are, there are ways out of that, I can guarantee you. If you're okay and comfortable, but you know that there's more, there's a lot you can do from this space as well. And if you're in a great role, awesome. Start considering though, where might your intention, don't start planning, but have an intention where you'd want to go next. If this has started some thoughts and feelings for you, just be aware that there are systems and processes which I go through in all of my programs, both my online programs and the one-on-one work I do with clients, to help them get from the terrible or from the okay space to a space where they'd really like to be. And there are very simple steps that you can put in place to get moving. But if you would like to chat to me a little bit more, or you have any questions that's come up outside of this, obviously feel free to email me via hello@thebridgecoaching.com.au. I'd love to hear from you. Make sure that you look after yourself. And like I said, there's no judgment whatsoever. Whatever bucket you're in is true for you right now. I have been in all three of them. And I remember the days both in the okay and the terrible job. And it was not a place where I would like to stay for any longer than I absolutely have to. So make sure to look after yourself, get in touch if you want to, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.